Hello. Hi, this is Kim MacLeod from Indie Authors World, and we are back today doing some more interviews with our authors, all for Book Week Scotland. And the topic is Blether, so we're having a Blether across the pond today with the very lovely Mr. John Hickman. Hello, welcome.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. And I have to try and remember to speak slowly because I get a bit excited sometimes and talk very fast. And John has just reminded me he is American and has to tune into my accent. So I'll try hard. If I speak too quickly, just tell me to slow down.
Yes, ma'am.
So, John, tell us a little about your books. I believe you've got two books out, and you write under your full name of John Lindsay Hickman.
That's correct. That's correct. In America, there's another John, two other John Hickmans that write books. So I used my middle name to kind of differentiate myself, make it easier for people to find me.
Yep, that's always a good plan.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is it you write about then? What's your genre?
Okay. I consider my genre really fiction, crime fiction is probably the best way to describe it. I was a police officer for 25 years here in America.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of what we call in the business war stories to tell, different things that happened. So, and I also, I have a summer place that I've pretty much grew up from a child in the summers up in Maine on a lake. And so I wanted to kind of combine the two together because I really enjoyed lake life in the summer up there so much. And I really enjoyed my career in law enforcement. And I had these stories to tell. So I tried to kind of combine the two things together. So I created a series of books about this small town sheriff in a fictitious community up in Maine, living on a lake, and he has crimes to solve. And it's a small, very small department, so it's not like in America we have those shows NCIS and CSI where they have all kinds of intricate things. He doesn't have all those. He's just a small town sheriff. It's more, I tell everybody, it's more like the old Andy Griffith show if your people are familiar with that.
Yeah.
Just gumshoe, learning, starting at the beginning and doing everything without all the scientific knowledge and things that are available.
Yeah.
And solving crimes that way. So that's how the series began. And I have two books thus far, and I'm working on the third now.
So tell us, what are your book titles so that people can check them out?
Okay, the first book was A Cold Snow in Castaway County, and the second book was A Black Bear Killer in Castaway County. So you can see there's a progression here. Yep. The third book will also end in Castaway County. So
as long as people remember the Castaway County, then they can go and find your books.
Exactly. And Castaway County is a fictitious county, but it's based on the county that I've been in every summer most of my life since I was 5.
So I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? We were talking how life and writing kind of tend to come together, So yeah. Have you brought a lot of your experiences and your memories and things into your writing?
I have. I've used it twofold because it's an opportunity for me to kind of teach people what lake life is like up in Maine, so that hopefully they can appreciate it, what it's like living on a lake and being around a lake. But then also, as far as the actual crime stories, the main story in each book is totally fictitious. But all the little side stories and things that happen are things that happened either to me during my career or happened around me, with other officers that I was friends with.
Yeah.
So it gives me an opportunity to kind of combine those two and bring in things that I've done in both areas and bring those joys hopefully to other people.
Yeah, and it's one thing I talk a lot with writers, that real life does tend to show up somewhere in your writing. Whether it's about characters or whether it's elements of stories that you will pull from your own experiences, and that makes it more real, I think, as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I actually switched my writing styles to allow more of that to come out. The first book was written in the third person So it sounded probably a little bit more like a police report because that's what I was used to writing. And then I got some input after that book, and I wrote in the first person in this book, and it allows me to bring a lot more of my personality, I think, into the books.
Yeah, yeah. I think first person definitely does help a reader as well to really engage engage with that. But yeah, so coming from the role of writing police reports then, because they're very factual and
exactly
probably quite dry in comparison,
and nothing personal. You're not, when you write a police report, you're not supposed to put anything personal in it. Yeah. So you have to be very, just facts, nothing else.
Yeah.
And so it's a completely different style of writing.
Yeah. So,
and I'm still learning.
So have you always thought that you would write some sort of fiction, or was this something that came to you later on in life?
I've always been a writer. I mean, even when I was young, I used to write like letters to the editor of the local newspaper about different issues and things like that. And so I've written all my life. When I was still working at the sheriff's office, I was actually in the sheriff's office. When I was still working for the sheriff's office, I used to write training keys, and I used to write general orders a lot. And so they were all very technical things, but I also got a chance to write articles for the American Jail magazine and the National Sheriff's Association magazine. And while the articles were technical about maybe things that our agency was doing, I had got to expand my vocabulary a little bit and use a little more prose as I was discussing some of the issues. So that was kind of a big thing. But I've always done a lot of writing and enjoyed that. And credit to my mother. She was the one that gave me the knowledge of the King's English so that I could speak fairly decently and write fairly decently. So.
Good. And are you an avid reader as well? Do you enjoy reading?
I am now. As a child, interestingly enough, I could probably count on one hand the number of books that I ever read, probably until I got into my 20s. So it wasn't until then that I started taking up reading and really enjoying reading, and now I read a lot.
So do you read? Is it crime still your passion for reading, or do you read other things?
I do, and I read Westerns a lot. I love Westerns. I read Westerns a lot, and I actually watch Westerns on TV a lot. The Westerns are my favorite genre, although I would never be able to write it because I don't know enough about the West, other than what I've seen on TV. So never lived in the West, but I love Westerns. But I do read quite a few crime dramas too, as well.
Yeah. So we're talking about this little chat being a bit of a blether.
Okay.
And you said that it wasn't a term that you'd come across at all.
No, we looked up the term when I saw the term. You gave us the term. I looked up the term because that's not a term that I'm familiar with here in the United States.
So yep. So we're saying now we're having to make sure that we start a trend then that America's going to have to start having some blethers then with people.
That sounds good. We've got tons of coffee shops. A good place to have a blether.
Exactly. So I suppose then if you're talking about maybe just going and having a chat with someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you got? I mean, is there someone that you've got in your life that you would go to all the time and have that kind of just the general chats about life?
Actually, my wife and my son, pretty much, they're my they're kind of my closest friends and confidants in that respect. So and they're straightforward enough that if they think I'm full of stuff, they'll tell me, and make no bones about it. So that's a good thing. They kind of both keep me centered. And as I've gotten older, I tend to, when I'm talking to somebody, forget terms or forget something. And so they're very good at filling in the blanks for me. So I joke that I can't really go out anywhere in public and tell a story to anybody without having either my wife or my son there to fill the blanks in.
Yep. Well, if Sinclair was sitting here, he would say exactly the same, because he does that for me.
Yeah, exactly. We end up doing it. We just start filling in the sentences for each other.
Yep.
Works out well.
Well, that's it. He's often telling me I just need to kind of get to the end of the sentence so he can figure out what it is I'm actually trying to say sometimes. So
Yeah.
it is part of getting older. That's just one of the things for life.
And the other part of, I agree, and the other part of it too is the fact that I have a tendency apparently to tell some of the same stories over. And so my wife and my son have a tendency to just number them, and it's like, oh, just say 16 and I'll laugh.
I think that's a great tradition of storytelling, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's it's something that's been part of my family, that whenever we got together, we would tell the same stories over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a way of passing on the stories to other generations and to other people. So you have to keep repeating them.
Well, exactly. People have heard them 2 or 3 times, and then they're able to tell them themselves. It's like when you hear a joke, somebody tells a joke, and if they only tell it to you once, or you didn't think it was super funny, it's hard to remember the joke if you want to tell it to somebody else. But if you heard it 3 or 4 times, you got it.
Absolutely. I think that's it. We're kindred spirits, John. That's so the kind of last question we were kind of talking about in this week in a section was whether you'd had a conversation with someone that had perhaps changed your life in some way.
I did, and oddly enough, it was all the way back in my high school days, when I was probably in early high school. I was planning, like I said, I used to summer up at the lake up in Maine, and my plan then, we all have great plans of what we're going to do when we grow up. Yeah. My plan was that I was going to move to Maine, get a year's residency up there, and I was going to become a forest ranger. That was what I was planning to be. And so I ended up, a friend of mine in high school told me that there was a law enforcement explorer post. Now, in the United States, we have the Boy Scouts. And this is a portion of the Boy Scouts where they actually have these, what they call explorer posts, and they're connected to different kinds of businesses so that young people can get an idea what the business is like. Yeah. So they might have one as nursing, for instance, with an emergency room, or and this one was a law enforcement explorer post. So he was in this post, had just started, and he suggested I try it. And so I said, okay, and we had a couple discussions about what they did and stuff, and it sounded like it was kind of interesting. So I got into the explorer post, and I really enjoyed it. And then I ended up going from there into being a paid cadet. And then from there, I went into being a full deputy sheriff. And so it really did change my life into law enforcement. And then I stayed in law enforcement for about 28 years total, but 25 with my current agency. So, yeah.
And from that, then you became a writer who could write about it. So
I did. And like I say, I got to develop the writing skills a little bit and get some war stories. I mean, it took years to get all those stories.
And I'm sure then that there's probably lots of books that could be written from all of those stories and all of those experiences that you had then, just to pull stuff in.
I hope so. I'd like to make this a nice series if I can before I'm done. So.
Yep. So we have to thank that person then for suggesting to you that you should go and explore this as an option.
Exactly. Absolutely. That did change my life.
Yep. And I think that's the thing that I find quite fascinating, that we can have conversations with people, and sometimes they can be really short conversations, but the impact can be huge.
Exactly.
And we don't always know even the conversation that we're having, what the impact is on that other person.
Oh, absolutely. And it can be such a small thing in your blether, as you call it. Yep. It can be such a small thing or issue that comes up in your blether that actually, as it turns out, makes a huge impact in your life later.
Yeah.
It's amazing sometimes. It really is. All the twists and turns we make in our lives and what they come out to be.
Yeah. And I suppose if I can just share that the reason that we actually are talking today and we got to know each other is because of I suppose a blether, but on Twitter many years
Yes.
ago between
Yep.
Sinclair and yourself discussing, and I think it started
Exactly.
maybe even discussing music rather than the books, if I'm right.
It started with the song "The Rose." One of my very favorite songs is "The Rose," and Sinclair had posted something about "The Rose," and I think because Bette Midler was who sang it and made it most popular, he'd made a comment about it, and I responded back to him and I said, "By the way, did you know who wrote the song?" And and we got into the whole discussion about the song and how much we both liked the song, and then here we are.
Yep.
Here we are.
Then we both discovered that you were both writing crime.
Yeah.
For those of you watching, we actually had the pleasure of meeting John and Jennifer when you came over to Scotland a few years ago, and we got to actually meet you. And so there you go. From one little bit of blether on something as where you were really restricted to 140 characters in those days.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Here we are, many years later, having a conversation and having a blether about just, books in general. So.
Yeah. No, it's come a long way from that one little Twitter.
So I think that's the thing I want to encourage anybody who is watching this. It's to make connections. That's what blethering really is all about. It's making
Absolutely.
a connection, having a conversation. Even if it just happens to be, you're standing in the queue at the supermarket and you say hi to the person that's behind you and how was your day? Because you just never know where those conversations can go and, like you say, the impact that you can have on somebody.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. You never know, and it could be something very small, and you think it's very innocuous, and it turns out to be something that that you really made a huge impact for somebody.
Yep. So hopefully we've encouraged some people to go and have some blethers. Then that's it.
Absolutely, I agree, and I will start doing the blethers on this side of the pond.
Oh, so thank you, John. It's been lovely to speak to you today. If people want to know more and get in touch with you, do you have a website, or where can people find you online?
I do. Probably the easiest, simplest thing is go to Hickman Books, HickmanBooks at, what is it, honey?
.com.
At hickmanbooks.com, yes. hickmanbooks.com.
Yep. Thank you, Jennifer.
She's a big help, trust me.
As we said, we need our other halves to be able to kind of fill in the blanks when we get
You're
home.
exactly right. You're exactly right. Absolutely.
So we'll put that link beneath the video, and we'll let people kind of come and check you out, because we want you to go and have a look at John's books, and we're going to start this blethering trend over in the States as well. So
okay, that sounds good.
And it's been great to interview you. So thank you so much, John.
Absolutely, thank you.